All right. It helps if I have the right controls up. So I can control my stream. Welcome. Stream. It's been a decent day. I'm still working on getting better at sleeping. Got 4 hours of sleep last night. I'm a little bit tired. We'll see how well my focus stays and pull the code. Maybe a good stream because I may make a lot of mistakes. Um, Yeah, welcome to the stream. Yesterday we did a bit of work on getting we fixed the types along with contentful. Figured out how the contentful types are supposed to work. Jan, hey man, it's good to see you too. I have been traveling and a little under the weather and recovering from stupidity on my own part. We talked about it a little bit yesterday, but um, because of stress, I was clenching my. And I didn't know this, but you can kill the roots in your teeth by clenching your jaw too much. Um, and so I did that. It's incredibly painful when that happens, and not a fun thing to have happen. So right now, my current suggestion to everybody is just, hey, find a healthy way to get rid of your stress. Deal with your stress in healthy ways. Don't your jaw, don't hold it in. Um, Otherwise, Sunday morning you might wind up in the emergency room with incredible pain and infection in your jaw, which is a hazard to your health, among other things. So it is good to see you though. But yeah, definitely take care of yourselves, you guys. Take care of your mental health. Sure that you're watching out for you. There are a lot of people that rely on you. There for them. I am feeling better. I so part of the issue is and so they basically they had to drill through the root, get to the jaw, and then they filled my jaw with antibiotic to kill off the infection in my jaw. Um, and my body's still absorbing that, and that fun, and the pain keeps me. So whatever. But I'm getting over it. I'm recovering well. Um, Originally, I thought I was going to be able to stream on Sunday. I'm going to be out all next week from Sunday. I'm going to be in the middle of the ocean with no internet, no phone, no nothing, just relaxing, getting some sun, visiting some islands and stuff. Much needed break. I'm looking forward to it. So, yeah, next week, Sunday, Monday, Thursday of next week, I won't be streaming. I will be streaming Thursday this week. I'm very much looking forward to just hopefully resetting my sleep clock. That's one of the tough things. I'm already a night owl as it is. Like I already struggle to go to bed. Um, like I don't know what it is about me and just my body in general, but as soon as it's dark outside, my body's like, "Woohoo! Let's go party! It's time to be, busy. Let's do stuff." So it's always really, really hard for me to go to sleep, and I've been that way for as long as I can remember. You know, just dealing with that. So I'm hoping that, being on vacation, I can try and reset my sleep schedule so that I'm getting more than 4 hours of sleep a night. Would be helpful. Um, yeah, you know, life is interesting. So, but yeah, thank you for showing up, Jan. Jan's just been a big supporter. Great guy. Anyway, um, enough of that. Unless you guys have questions. Like one of the things that I enjoy about streaming is the interactivity, right? So if you guys have comments or questions, put them in chat. Yesterday we spent a bunch of time. There were a couple guys just asking about jobs and what it's like to get jobs as juniors in today's job market. And we spent a bunch of time yesterday just kind of discussing that and how it's difficult. Um, and I I like to use this stream to help teach Angular concepts and coding concepts. And Angular is a good vehicle for me to do that because that's what I work in day to day and what I'm interested in. And there's some important coding concepts we can learn there. But more than anything, I also want to help the people who show up, help in your careers. If I can, and if I can help in any way, I've been doing this for a long time. So I might have some advice. I'm not going to say whether it's good or bad, but I might have some advice. I think that comes with being a parent. We seem to have opinions about a lot of things and seem to think about ways that people could do things good or bad, right? Um, but yeah, thank you guys for being here. Let's kind of dive into it. I've been wanting to get, and every once in a while I just get like a shooting pain that'll go up into a lot of fun. Got one right now, and it was really weird. I'm not even sure what caused it. Anyway, we're looking at latest commit. What I want to look at, oh, probably telling me that I need to update some things. Let's see. Couldn't get Copilot to update yesterday. Let's see if this update works. I'm just gonna try once, but it was complaining about permissions. So we'll see if this works. Start. Yeah, I'm really not sure. I wanted to take a look at this, but wound up spending some time with my family yesterday. I'm not sure why giving me a file access error. So I'll have to go dig into that. I think there's probably some file permissions going on here, but I don't know. Uh, just go ahead and use it as is. Look at that. It just told me that. Interesting. Um, yeah, it's still showing as needing updates, but I don't know. I don't know what's going on. I'm gonna let it be for now and not get stuck trying to troubleshoot tooling, right? I've done enough of that today. That's part of being kind of staff engineer, right? It a lot a lot of your day can be spent helping others unblock their days, which quite often tooling. So anyway, let's see the all articles. Secondary first page. I'm just going to close all tabs in the all. So here we are. We've got an article blurb. The article that we pass in has markdown. So I'm curious about getting markdown page. For this stream, I cheated a little. I was looking at the documentation in analog on how to get markdown to the page. See that they've got this analog markdown component. We can import this markdown component, and it looks like we can just pass the markdown content component. Could render on the. I'm hoping this works. um, and I am glad that I did a little bit of research beforehand, just because tracking this down took me a little bit of time thinking, and it could be my sleep deprived brain being like, oh yeah, this will totally. We'll see. We'll go to our article blurb. Article. Okay, fine. We'll do it this way. So we're in our article blurb, and inside of here, this div is what shows the article blurb. I think all I need to do, if I'm reading this correct, I just import the markdown component from analog, and then we'll add the analog. We can see that analog.js dot. So up here, we'll just import hash. Yeah, we want to make sure we're adding the with analog imports because we want to make sure that this gets added to the imports section of our component. And then really think. I don't think we can do it this way. I think I have to actually pass in the content, right? I want to test if we can do a self-closing tag here. Self-close this. If we can't, we'll make it non-self-closing. But then there's just a content here. And then say, hey, this is our article. Is article really? Did I really make article? That article is a signal. That's huge over like over VS Code. The fact that it just was like, oh yeah, this is a signal. Here's your parentheses. Let's go. It actually kind of threw me because I've been working in VS Code all day. Like, oh, I have to remember that things are signals. Here, just like, yeah, you probably meant to use the signal in your template. So we'll add the parentheses for you. That's really nice. Make sure they do have it marked with content. It's saying that content doesn't exist. But we'll save this and see if it compiles. It looks like don't. No, it's still showing up as a paragraph tab. That's why we aren't getting the content. It save it. I've definitely saved it now. It did both times that it compiled, forced the page reload, right? Oh, look at this. Now we've got a problem. No provider for a all saying all articles equals all articles to signal articles this dot get all articles. A3 my service? It's online. Or look, articles service. Articles service. Let's go. Provided in root. Contentful service. So provided in root. Interesting. Follow that stack trace back a bit. We take a look here. Pop this out so that we're doing. Line 20. Get. They're all coming. Regular. Object content renderer. Oh, look at that. We've got a content renderer. We need to inject. Oh, you know what? I'm reading something about this. Content. Yeah, this is what I need. So with markdown renderer, let's see if me providing this fixes it. So this is going to go in our app config. Just port our stuff. Good now. Well, one thing that bothers me here, this stuff, uh, there are different degrees of separation, but usually if I don't have some sort of grouping and separation going on, I like to make sure that all of my stuff is alphabetized because it makes it easier for me to find things. Sometimes I like to keep things, what do I want to call it, like grouped in certain ways. And in that case, then I'll alphabetize within my groups. But just, I'm a big fan of keeping things organized, and it was bugging me that I hadn't. Now we've provided our content renderer, it's recognized that. Go back. Ooh. Ooh. It was that simple, you guys. Look at that. So we've now got markdown going on in our application. It was ridiculously simple. I was worried because as I was reading this, they're talking about having to set up content routes, and content routes would allow you to use, there was like content file lists, inject content. This was the, so, and you can see down here that they're using this inject content, but inject content's just returning an observable, and I saw that they were just unwrapping this observable with an async pipe, and then they were just injecting it straight into content. So there was nothing special about what inject content's doing. Inject content's just reading the content from um, from wherever on the file system, or in an API route or something like that, and it's giving us back something that matches this post attribute. I love Mermaid. We may have to play with that. I'm glad I didn't have to do this and have to figure out how to trick it. So thank you, Jan. But yeah, that was actually really simple. In fact, because we've got that, there's one other thing I want to take advantage of really quick, and I'll show you guys the issue that I want to solve, and then we'll extend this to all the other pages. But right now, if you look, like our images are this, right? And if I refresh, then we're getting different. What I would like to do is somehow hash the article itself, maybe the title and the article, and use that to generate the key. So if I go and we inspect this, right, and look, oh, I can't look because if I make it too wide, it goes away. So if we go inspect this, you can see that here, the pixel. So if we just go to like the pick some photos, we're going to get this. If we go and we add a seed to it, and we say, let's do like ABC 1, 2, 3, 5. Nothing. Interesting. So what if we do like, I was gonna say mountain, but let's try something smaller like chair, right? Still a page. Go take a look. I don't think I'm using that long of words here. So here, and we look at the key here. If we So this seed is just spa, so like 3 letters. Oh, 2 slashes. Pick some photos. Seed spa. Here, best pick photos. It's probably because I'm making the wrong kind of request. Go back here. Oh, I need a size. Problem. Okay. So go back here and here, and then we'll edit this. We'll give it like 400 pixels, right? 400 pixels. There we go. So I want to see if photos. Let's just do like A11 to BC 007, right? Okay. So it is just a key that's used to generate the random seed. So I'm curious if we take our article and we hash it. What do we get, right? Oh, we do get all articles. Call the contentful service .get article. And at this point, are having the articles, and then we're mapping them out. We're creating our author. Oh yeah, we're mapping this to create the author. And then we're calling create test article. But we aren't providing a seed at all here. We're also we need to fix the height and the width. Fix that stuff. But inside of create test article, are you RL? Yeah, we're just using a noun for our C. Instead, we could do how do we want? Let's just create a function. We'll call this get pick and inside of here, what we will do is we'll take partial. Don't even get the article in. We destructure the article, so I can't. So we'll take the title string content also. We'll make both of these optional. Put that on the wrong place. There. Promise you guys, I write code. And this will return just a string, going to be our C. So what we can do is we can say if not title and not content, then we're just going to return the faker noun that we were using before. So here we can just say, hey, it's going to be get pick title and art. And that should, oh, it's content. So if we don't pass in title or content, then we're going to get the same thing. Otherwise, we need to hash it, right? And I'm trying to think of like a simple way to hash this. And let's just see if MDN full hash. See if MDN, like if the browsers have, I think they do because subtle crypto. So it looks like, because I know that the browsers have built-in cryptography. So the hash function takes a variable length message and produces a fixed length hash out. 128-bit fingerprint or message idea. 128 bits is pretty big. Their hash-based method. There's just like an MD5. Fairly certain there were The last time I looked, I remember there being some cryptography stuff on here, and maybe that's what I need to look into. Is let's see if I search for crypto, it's available in web workers. So window.crypto property. So that returns a crypto object for the. I'm gonna see what the object is. All its methods and its child object are not read-only, therefore vulnerable to attack by polyfill. I don't really care about an attack on this. Not like we're doing super secure stuff. But like the interesting thing about window.crypto is a lot of the random numbers that you generate in like JavaScript are not very cryptographically secure, which most of the time doesn't matter. Um, but there is a way to get random values based on they're using an array to seed the random values. So they no, they aren't. It's just an array that can hold 32 values. They're passing that in to get random values. Get random values is generating 10 values. We can see that here, right? That you got 10 random numbers that are cryptographically secure. So it may just be faster to back to Google. So there is a subtle crypto hash. Probably do cryptographic hash function. Curious what this is. MDN. What non-cryptographic are in subtle crypto? So let's take a look here. Digest crypto interface. Look at this space and just so it's only available in HTTPS. That's fine. Through HTTPS. Oh, we're not. That I do remember. We've got an encrypt and decrypt. And like they said, this shouldn't be used for anything security wise because they're vulnerable to a proxy attack and a couple other attacks on the object. So even though you guys know this is there, you definitely shouldn't be them. Oh, we can even tell it the. That's nice because SHA-1 is fast. Don't care about collisions. Um, the reason they're telling us not to use SHA-1 is that SHA-1 is fundamentally broken. Computers are fast enough now that they can calculate SHA-1 collisions, which is crazy to think that they've managed to break SHA-1. They're close to breaking SHA-256, which is even crazier to think about. And that's why things like Blowfish and Triple Des and things like that exist, is because cryptographically it's an arms race, right? Eventually, our GPUs and our data centers and stuff like that are going to get good enough that breaking SHA-256 um, becomes trivial, like it is for SHA-1. And then they're going to say, "Hey, don't use this." And so it just becomes an arms race as we need to build bigger and bigger keys as computers get more and more powerful. And the crazy thing that a lot of people are talking about is, if quantum computers ever become a thing, most of these SHA hashing algorithms, there are theoretical collisions that already exist for any sized SHA-based key based on quantum computing, which I will admit I haven't looked into it. And again, they're theoretical. People think that it'll work, but they haven't been proven, right? And so they don't even reach the qualification of being a theory. They're just, somebody said this is possible. But we don't know how possible. At least that's my current understanding. And that's a couple years out of date. There may have been more research into it. It's just crazy to think that if we ever get into like ubiquity with quantum computing, that a lot of what we use to secure our code is going to quickly come out of. But I don't like this. We're going to brute force it. We don't care to bother me. We don't care too much about what do I want to say? We don't care too much about collisions, right? Um, so let's do this. Let's say that we will take. So we're going to go title or an empty string, content or an empty string, dot join. We're going to join them there. And then we're going to split them on empty. Actually, we don't even need to do this. Fine. So what we've done is we've basically created an array of title and content, and if either one of them is nullish, then we're just going to replace them with an empty string. And then what we want to do is we're going to we'll slice off. Let's slice off like the first. We'll slice off like the first 64 characters. And then what we will do is we'll just say for um, can I iterate in that way? So do for of. It's underlining that because it's never reassigned used. So feel that because. So first of all, we'll just console log star. And then the other thing we can do is r dot character. We'll try 0 and we'll just see what we get here. And this. I don't think this is going to work. I think I also do just a split. And this. And so now, let's try it without the split. One thing you can do is you can iterate over a string by look at that. This is basically what I was looking at. This will work. And then the last thing I want to do is just right here. I just want to make it a base 36 number. And that's going to convert it into alpha characters, A through Z, and then 0 through 9. Let's see if it works. And here, let's just put this. Oh, they just opened up fiber in my neighborhood. Some guy just knocked on the door. He's bugging my wife, trying to get her to sign up for fiber, and she's like, "Oh, my husband." So I do want to sign up for some fiber. I'd like to get gigabit internet at the house, but I don't want to do it if there are going to be limits on like uploading and stuff like that, because with streaming I do a lot. I use a lot of bandwidth. You know what? Actually, I don't even need to log this. If I want to log it, we can log it later. I'm trying to think through a bunch of different things. But basically, what we've done here is if we don't have a title and we don't have content, then we're just going to return, again, just a fake word, right? And actually, this doesn't work. Well, yeah, it doesn't matter because we don't have title and content. We're in a test situation anyway. You know what? Yeah, it doesn't matter. In a production environment, you shouldn't use Faker. Faker actually will bloat your packages quite a bit, and we saw that before. But anyway, what I'm doing to generate this hash, and it's a very naive way to generate a hash, because we could very easily run into collisions with this method. But to me, I don't care if we get the same picture, for whatever reason, right? It's not the end of the world. And in a real production environment, you wouldn't generate pictures this way. You would add pictures to Contentful, and then you would grab them as you needed them. So I don't care about collisions, but we're just taking the first 64 characters, after we've joined the title to the content. We're just grabbing the first 64 characters. We're iterating through them. We're turning them into their ASCII numerical representation. We're summing them all up using reduce, and then we're storing them. And you know what? This algorithm is actually suboptimal because I'm going to iterate multiple times. In fact, what we could do, call this our character. Boom. Oh, I've got them backwards. Accumulator is there. This is our char. So now we're creating a number by summing these up. And we're only going through this 64 characters one time, right? The way it had it written before, and this is why you should review your AI written code. Like there, I'm doing some stuff that's suboptimal here anyway, right? By joining these together, slicing off the first 64 characters, and then I'm splitting the characters, and then I'm reducing them. It's okay. There are ways we could optimize this. One of the ways that we could do is we could actually go to a for loop. So I could do like for let I equal 0, I is less than like content dot length I, right? Here we can box. Actually, we can narrow this easier. So now this will work. We'll put it back to the way. But here, you can say, content.log, content I, and content I. And this is something that comes from like the old C and C++ days of programming for me. When I say old, that's because that's one of the first languages I learned, right? I'm not saying it's old because of the languages themselves. I'm saying in my mind, it's a language I haven't worked with in a long time. But back when I was learning C, it kind of blew my mind that all strings are arrays of characters, and JavaScript kind of brought that along for the ride. So you can actually go through a string this way, which means that we wouldn't need to use the split operator, right? So, but we're optimizing for 64 characters, and maybe if we were in an embedded system or we were going to run this thousands of times, it might matter. But really, we've got 2 articles. We're doing 64 characters. That kind of optimization is maybe a little bit overkill, especially when most people, if you go back like 5-10 years, this kind of looping would frustrate people, right? This way of iterating through arrays and mapping them, it would frustrate people. This is now the preferred way to do it. So writing loops this way is actually easier for modern developers to understand than but for loops actually can help you fix issues that you've got in your code. There is I don't know if you guys have seen this before, but this operator turned it into a play button. Awesome. It's the pipe operator, and it's made up of this character and this character without the space. That operator is one of the things I'm really looking forward to. So yes, pipe. I want to see where it is. Um, so it's in TC39. Which means that stage 2 draft, which is good. Stage 2 means that we're close to getting it in TypeScript. I believe TypeScript waits until it's a stage 3. And look at that by saying TypeScript stage draft. So I don't know. I believe it's stage 3, and maybe it's changed, but I believe when I was first learning TypeScript, stage 2, I don't know. We're off the weeds a little bit. Yeah. And so once, like right now, it's so the pipe operator is at stage 2, which means that the TC39 committee has a preferred solution, but that they aren't done refining the solution, and they aren't done validating it, right? Once it reaches 2.7, they call it, then they start testing and validating it. Once it's reached stage 3, then no changes to the proposal are expected, right? So once it's stage 3, I believe TypeScript will pick it up when they have time. And stage 4 for sure. Once it reaches stage 4, then you can't make further changes, right? And that's when browsers will start releasing the feature. They're in stage 4. But stage 3, you'll start seeing things under experimental flags. And I believe, like, one of the big benefits to using TypeScript is that you can use stage 3 proposals and stage 4 proposals before they've landed in browsers, or before if older browsers don't support them, you'll often see. So having the pipe operator be stage 2 is good. And it's been stage 2 fairly recently, but it was introduced in 2021. So you guys can see how slowly this moves. But basically, what the pipe operator does is it allows you to pipe your expression through multiple operators. So currently, like if you take an array and you run it through map and then reduce and then maybe map again, or let's say you take an array, you run it through filter, then you run it through map, and then you run it through reduce, right? And let's say your filter doesn't filter anything. So then your filter runs all the way through your array. Then the map runs all the way through the array. And then the reduce, runs all the way through the array and returns whatever you reduced it to, right? That kind of sucks in the case where you want to do something like a take, grab the first 10 items that match my filter, map them, and then put them together using this reduce function, right? In JavaScript, you're going to go all the way through the filter at least, because it's going to filter everything, and then you can grab the first 10 out of that array using slice, and then you can run the map and everything like that. But often people will do it wrong, and they'll do filter map, first 10, and then right, and it gets expensive. And the other way to do it is, say you do map and then filter. So then it goes through and maps everything, and then it runs the filter on everything, and then then you take the first 10, right? That's not useful. What the pipe operator solves is, you get your array and then you pipe it to map, right? And then you pipe that to filter, and then you pipe that to take, and then you pipe, and then at that point you've got the first 10 items out of your array. Because what happens is, the first item runs through the map, then it runs through the filter, and then it's given to take. Take says, oh, that's the first item, right? And then so it goes all the way through your pipe, instead of going map, running everything through, filter, running everything through, take, grabbing the first 10, and then everything else. So this is huge. And like, if you use any of the functional libraries out there, they've got notions of pipes like this. We're off on a tangent here, but when you're processing large amounts of data, that's where I'll reach for something like Ramda or other libraries like that, because they provide that ability. So look at like Ramda, right? And Ramda gets a bad rap because it can be difficult to understand sometimes. But it's a very powerful library. It's a functional library. It relies heavily on currying and partial application and all sorts of cool stuff like that. But within Ramda, there is a pipe operator. So using the pipe operator, see the mathematical expression up here, where these objects are turned into O, then O, D, right, all the way down. And so it does left to right function composition. So these functions, these can be your filters or whatever. And right, the first argument may have any arity. And the arity of your functions is basically how many parameters, right? So a function that is unary has one parameter, binary has two, right? That's what they're talking about with the arity. And when you curry a function, you basically take an n-ary, which is the n-ary is like the functional way of saying that it's an argument with undefined number of parameters in arity, right? So it has any kind of arity. And then when you curry a function, it makes that function into unary functions that then can be partially applied, which is really cool. Currying is really cool. But like what I said may or may not make sense. It took me a very, very, very long time, probably longer than I want to admit, to understand functional terminology and functional programming and what it means. But pipe, basically what it does is, you give it a function of any arity, and that function is going to return a list of items. That list of items is then going to be piped through all the unary functions afterward, right? And so if you look at Ramda, you've got things like filter, you've got things like map, you've got things like take, and things like that. And so if you've got like 10,000 items in an array and you want to grab the first 10 that match a condition, and map them and do stuff like that, right? Um, Suddenly Ramda becomes really, really impressive. Make that 1,000,000 items in an array or 1,000,000,000 items where you can't even fit it into memory and you're streaming stuff into memory. You can't run through map 1,000,000,000 times and then run through filter 1,000,000,000 times, right? You're just going to kill. And so that's why, we're off on a tangent here, but that's why I love the pipe operator. And that's why I'm looking forward to the pipe operator, because we can start writing loops like this, but um, instead of doing this reduce, I could just split it, right? And then I wouldn't even need to do this. I could just do, instead of taking the first 64, I could just I could pipe it to split, and then from split I could pipe it to take, and then I could say, hey, take the first 64, and then I would pipe that to reduce. And so split would only grab, the first 64 items, and split may not work that way, right? But that's kind of the idea, is that we could write this in a much different way, um, and it would be much more performant. And so the way you would do that now is you would go away from, kind of this declarative style of iterating an array, to the imperative style where you go through. I was showing. Anyway, way off on a tangent, right? To explain optimizations and this stupid hashing function that all we're doing is we're converting the letters, the characters in our content, and we're converting them to numbers, summing them up, and then turning that into a base 36 number. That's really what we're doing to get our seed. So if we look, this compiled. Go take a look at our app. Back to our all articles. We'll see that, we got this cave. Is that a bear in the background? Or is that just the way the shadows look? I can't tell if that's a bear on its hind legs, or if that's just the way the shadows against the tree and in a rock back there look like that, right? Because our brains are really, really good at recognizing patterns. But that would be a little bit creepy. The main reason that it looks like a bear to me is these look like big paws here, and it looks like there's a nose. And I've seen black bears in the wild. Shape is weird though. It's really small, but that doesn't mean that we're seeing the bear it's probably just my mind being like, oh yeah, that's a bear. It's just really hard to tell. I don't know how well that's showing up on YouTube and Twitch, but and then these green beans, right? So I'm gonna call them green beans. I know in some places, because these are thin, they might be string beans, but string beans and green beans are the same thing to me as far as I'm concerned. And some other places might call them, oh, I'm not even going to try to pronounce it because I'm going to butcher. There's a French name for green beans that basically translates into green beans. I'm going to butcher the name, but as far as I'm concerned, let's see if our hashing function works by refreshing, right? If we refresh, it gets the same seed, we're good. So no matter how much we refresh, we're going to get the same seed, we're going to get the same picture. And it's interesting that how to use single file components with analog.js gets my least favorite vegetable. And streamlining Angular development is a cave with a shadow that looks like a bear. So it's just kind of a funny funny coincidence, right? Get assigned random meaning, doesn't matter. So there we go. We have now been able to get markdown to our components, and we've also been able to keep our images the same. So now we can transfer this across the rest of the application. So let's take a look at doing that. But before we do that, we should always stage that. Here we're going to stage this. We're going to say that we added ability play article go back up. Didn't grab water, so I on soda today. I like to drink water when I'm streaming because it's a little bit more refreshing. It's easier on the throat, and I don't know. But I did need a drink, and that helped. Anyway, here, staging this. Hopefully you guys can't hear the dogs going crazy in the background. I'm not even sure why they're going crazy. I think they're still a little bit worked up from that random guy showing up at the house and trying to sell us internet. When they're worked up like that, and they're cute dogs, but tiny dogs, it's hard to keep them calm. So let's see this. Generate a simple and one thing that's interesting about this is because of the way we're hashing this, if somebody were to change their title, or up to the first 64 characters, the title plus whatever 64 characters wind up being, then they would basically change their picture. The other thing we can do is we can inspect this. Go take a look at this image. So here's our so you can see that our seed is actually pretty. Look at this. Can't shrink it because if I do, it'll go away. But we can see that like this is a 4p3, which is a pretty small seed, or pretty small. And then if we take a look at this one, seed is 4G5. And so they're in, well, I wouldn't even say they're in the same ballpark. Our base 30, 6 decimal. What does it keep doing? Here we go. Here's a base 36 to decimal converter. So if we do like 4p3, so it added up to 6,087. The other one was what, 4.5? So 5,760. So They're okay sized numbers, but when you base 36 encode them, they get a lot smaller. And I can't do base 36 in my head. Base 16 to do like hex in my head, I convert hex to binary, and then I can do the binary conversion. I do the same with octal. I convert to binary, and if I'm doing like decimal to the other way, I always go binary first. And hex is really easy to do, and so is octal. If you, I'm way off on like if you do 1100 I don't. I would have to do the math to figure out what this is binary or decimal, right? But in hex, this. Oh, all right. This is definitely F. So 15, right? So you've got 8 plus 4 plus 2, right? That's 14 plus 1. That's 15. 15 hex is an F. This is plus 4 is 12. And so 10 is A. This is actually, and then this winds up being 10, 11. So we said that was B. And then this is an F, right? So, we could do 0x F. And it's really easy to convert binary to hex. It's also easy to convert hex back to binary, right? And then from there, like you saw, I'm doing the math in my head, right? So, right, 8, 4, 2, and then this winds up being our 1632, and 64, 128, 6512, 1024, 2048. Wow, this is a decent sized number. So, right, then you take these and everywhere you've got a 1 in that place, you add those. So with octal, you can do groups of 3, so 111, 001, 01. In octal, this is so wrong. I don't even know what it's doing. But yeah, this is 5, right? We've got a 5 here, but 001 is just 1. And then this is 7. So this becomes 715 in, and I don't think 0x is, remember what the octal, 0, remember what the, but this winds up being, that's 5 plus 8 is 13, 16, 32, 64, we're at 13, so 64 plus 13, 77, plus 128 is 205, plus 256 winds up being, plus 205 is 411, 411. And maybe my math is off. But anyway, off. We're all over the place today, right? But I do enjoy just kind of discussing things like that. I think stuff like that is important to understand as developers. Is it something that I think every developer should know? Maybe. I don't think you have to know it to be a good developer. And I'm not going to distinguish between like developer and engineer and stuff, gatekeeping and splitting hairs, right? If you want to call yourself an engineer, call yourself an engineer. If you want to be a developer, to be a developer. Um, you can absolutely be a good engineer or developer without knowing the stuff that we're talking about. Um, I do think it's useful to understand things like that and understand like simple conversion tricks into how to do stuff like converting hex to octal, for example, which I don't think we do so much anymore. I really can't even think of places where we do that anymore. But it used to be more common when I first started programming in octal to hex, binary, back and forth. But understanding like your hex and your binary and stuff like that gives you insight into why a lot of things stop at like 2, so or 255, right? Because like your colors, when you're doing your RGB stuff, they stop at 255, right? And your hex string. So when you're doing your colors, your FF, or your F3, A7, why not? Right? This color, when you break it apart, um, right? This is your red, your green, and your blue components, and this D4 can be converted into a 256 number, right? And to do that, it's helpful to know that D winds up being right. A is 10, B, C. So we're at 13. So that becomes 1101. And then D4 is just 0100, right? And so if we convert this, we know we've got a 4 here, and then got our 8, and then, right, we've got 16, so 20, 32, 64, 84, plus 128 winds up being, so 64 plus 128, I just lost it, 4, 60, 20 plus 84 plus 128. So if we go backwards, so that's 200 plus 84 plus 8, 12. It's 212, right? So we're less than 250. And FF winds up being 250, right? And that's why when you do your RGB conversions, the max number. And again, I'm off on tangents. To get focused. What happens when I'm on low sleep? Things just grab my attention, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's cool. So hopefully, I'm not boring everyone. We're talking about things that everybody knows, right? Um, that's just as bad. Um, but anyway, our article blurb is fixed, which is crazy because now if we go to our first page, look at our article. This is our first component. And here we're getting the main article and getting highlight articles. So one thing we can do, kind of cheat, is can actually our article service. we've got, create test article, and we've got create test article, right? Um, so let's make this use our service. Um, but let's be a little bit smart about this. Um, so with get all articles, we're calling get articles, right? If we go and we not remember how to go back. Navigate back. Alt. Hitting control. Alt left. Take us here. So here, get main article. What we could do is we could here notice that where you from. So here we can just say, hey, from. We can say contentful.get main article. Great. So now we need to go create our get main. Go to get articles. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to add a cache to our contentful service. So what we can do is we can say that we've got let the just say that this is our last check and for now we're going to say that this is a date. Yeah, actually what we can do, we can just do date dot min value. I must be thinking of .net. Do I think of a .net? I swear there was a because I know .net has it, but look here, yes, date min value. .net. Maybe it doesn't exist. Here in the documentation on the date. Temporal, which is really cool, but I don't know stage we're in here. But within temporal, there's like a min and a max. Anyway, what I was trying to avoid doing is making this date and then here we can have our cache here and just say that our articles returns an article model. Promise with an Okay. So here we're mapped. Mapped is article model array. So we can just say cache is an article model array, and we can set it to empty. And so then the other thing we can do is we can add a constant, a const max. Sure, we'll do, yeah, make this millisecond. Can I throw as constant? It doesn't like this. I was hoping that it would be smart enough to do that. Other thing we can do that, make the number easier to read. And so that's 5 minutes. That's usually why I like to do math, but add the comp 5 minutes. So what we can do now is we can just add and say they get articles. I'm going to return an article model. What we can do is we can just say, yeah, lead doesn't add. Yep. So I'm actually not too angry with the way that it wrote this. So what it's doing is it's saying that if we haven't checked, then we're going to get it. If we have checked, then we'll calculate the time right now in milliseconds. And if the time right now is minus the last time we checked is greater than the 5 minutes, then we're going to ask again. Otherwise, we're just going to return the cached value, right? And so what this is doing, it's a very naive cache implementation, because we don't have a way to throw away the cache or invalidate the cache or anything like that, right? It's really, really naive. But what it will allow us to do is, cache the values, and get them out. There are probably better ways to do this. I know there are. So, some of the ways to do this is to use caching headers returned from your service, right? And so you still make the call, but based on the caching headers, then then either you grab it out of the local cache or you get it from wherever. And Contentful probably has some caching headers that we could turn on. Right now, I'm just going to go super simple. I don't want to make the call if in the last 5 minutes nothing's changed. It's blog articles. If somebody doesn't see a blog article until 5 minutes after they last checked, it's not a big deal. So anyway, what we can do is in here and say that if this dot get, say const cached equals this dot get cached articles, and say um, if cached, then we're just going to return cached. Otherwise, we'll actually go through and get everything here, right? And so the benefit to this is that we're only ever going to get articles every 5 minutes. And then the next thing we can do is we can say, we also have an async get main article. It helps if we spell async. So the first thing we're going to do is we're just going to say, hey, get articles, right? And then we're just going to return to articles here. So now we're returning articles 0 or undefined. And I'm not returning anything, so return await this. And there we go. You know what? There's our main article. And then the next, well, actually, we can check this. Right? So if we go to the home page, you can see that our main article now matches the other article, which is awesome. I think our image is too big. Is it? Close this. So I think that's the right size. We'll have to take a look. There should, I guess there weren't images here. Maybe. Oh, there aren't. We're good here. I think we're okay here. Just make sure we go look at the, doesn't it let? Turn that, and then the article container. It's not going to like main article, but we can just say, we can just say, if in article this, else, say, that's interesting. It just wants to add a spinner. say go. So we've got that. And then here, just say empty. Here we can just say later for more content. Fine. So now we're handling the case where there's not a main article. We're going to just display, hey, there's no articles to display. There aren't any secondary articles. We're just going to say, hey, come back later. And here we can go get highlighted article. We already did get highlighted. This is get highlighted articles. So again, we're just going to pull all of this out. We're going to, yep, that, go create get highlighted articles. And so highlighted articles, we said that there would be at max 6. So again, we can just say, hey, async, get highlight article. And we're just going to say that we're going to get articles. We're going to so get articles, which returns an array. So here we can just say, hey, we want to skip the first one and we want to grab the next 6. I believe that's how it works. I can't remember if slice is a 0 indexed or a 1 indexed. So if we look at start 0 based, okay. That's what I love about just to help here in WebStorm is that it tells me it's 0 based. So starting at 1 and then we're going to grab the next 6. You can see end. Oh, that would have grabbed. Well, I think I want to start at 1. I think we do want to end at 6 because there are 7 articles, so we want to end at the 7th article, right? Because the first article will be the main article, and then the next 6 will be the highlight articles. And this should work now. We go look, yeah. But we've got an issue here that we haven't fixed our markdown. Our mark. And the nice thing about this is if we open this up, go to our network tab, go ahead and clear it. And let's go to all articles. We'll refresh here. We can see that this entries query was made right here. And this is where we get queries back, right? So here's our items, our 2 articles. And so now if I go to like home, Hmm. We shouldn't have made that query. I did something wrong with my cache. Because if we go back to welcome, go to all articles, got the end request here, and we're getting those articles. But we're injecting our service at the root level. Let's do this. Add a debugger here. Save that. Going to complain. Pop this out. So here, our last check is undefined. I got to remember this. Our last check is undefined. So we return an empty array. Great. So now our cache length is 0. So we're going to go through and grab everything. We're great. Am I hitting it? Oh, did I already hit? Oh. So last check. Did I not set last check? That's my problem. That's what I get for trusting and not verifying. We don't set last check. Get articles. And in fact, I'm not even setting the cache. We're not using the cache. I'll blame it on lack of sleep. It was just me being dumb. So here, if we actually want to cache stuff, what we can do is we can just say, hey, we want to set cache articles. Boom. And so now we're setting the cache to the articles, and we're setting the last check to now. And then before we return mapped, all we need to do is just set the cache. And now our cache. So now if we go to like all articles and hit our F12, go to our network tab, we clear everything out, and well, we can refresh here, right? And then go look at our tools here. We see that we've got our entries here. So we grabbed our entries twice. We did grab our entries twice, which is dumb. The reason we grabbed our entries twice is we created a race condition for ourselves, which is what Jan spoke about in GComp, and I just did it. And you always feel dumb, but Now, if we go to all articles, though, now if we go to all articles, we should see that here in didn't make another query after, right? Now, if I go back to home, in we're not making extra query. So for the next 5 minutes, we won't make any extra. So we're good there. But like I said, created a race condition for ourselves, which makes you feel dumb. Everybody makes mistakes. How do we create a race condition for it, right? And this is a good thing to understand, right? Because a lot of times you'll have people that'll be like, "Oh, why are we making two calls?" And that I immediately said the same thing, right? Why am I making two calls? Well, the reason I'm making two calls is that get main article and get highlight article are they're async. Basically means that in our article container right here, um, we're not handling things properly. And the right way to do it sucks, but right way to do this is we would say that so that should do away with the double call because we're going to pause here. No, that's not going to work because now our main article. Well then, yes, yes, should have already known that it can unwrap promises because it was doing that already. But now if we grab our network, clear this, fresh. Ah, dang it. It's not doing. So um, the reason it's still continuing on is that even though I'm telling it to await this, that's just a promise. And that two signals, just like, yeah, it's a promise. So here we can just say const article. Call this article name. Now we can say, and that should fix it. This is the problem. This is where Can't throw it away because constructor is not async, and I don't think we can make a constructor async in Angular. So instead of doing what I am doing, what we could do is, so we can go here, going to become different. We're now going to call this get main articles, and this is going to return an object that is the main article. It is that, and then highlights is model. So there we go. We've now got that in place here. And return our object. This will have our highlights, and go and get rid of that. Save that. And then our article service to get main articles. Going to return get main articles. Again, this is a good point where we should probably create a type so we're not copying this stuff over and over again. So get main articles, create a type for this, that with type alias. Type alias, we will call this put my tools to the top. So we can import this. There we go. And then in our article service, we can say main article. Go. And then get highlight articles doesn't do anything for us. Oh, I was being dumb. We're returning observables. We're not even returning promises. So what I was doing was just silly. And here, article container, this is now broken. And say that const in article articles. Now we've got a signal here. And now we can just say, hey, we want to pipe this. Yep. No, that is. We want the map operator on here, but you can just grab main right here. Main. All of that for us. And here we can do thing. Secondary highlight. Doesn't like. Oh, why am I converting that to a signal? Convert this to. And what doesn't it like about? What did I call? Highlights. Go. Solves that. The other thing that we want to do also is we can just pipe this to a table. Go. We can use that because we're in a constructor context here. And that should fix our, this should fix our issue with our race condition. And we solved it in the way that Jan taught us at ngComp. So if we look, go back to our console. Actually, our console will show it too, right? So if we refresh this, we refresh, go take a look at our console. We'll see that we only made it to mapped one, right? And our contentful articles we got back from the server. So now if we go to like all articles, notice that we said, hey, we're getting articles from contentful, but we didn't actually contentful articles or anything like that. And if we go back to the home, again, we're not making our calls. So, we're not getting multiple calls. Like this too is right at the time we made it back here. So we're in a good place. So that is good. And we solved that. So it's probably a good time to commit. And I do need to end. So that's a good stopping point. Tomorrow, or not tomorrow, Thursday, there's just a small thing to get to. So right now, if we look, let's fix this. We'll fix this and then I'll stop. But right now, if we look, right, we've got the same articles here and the same articles here, but if I click here, this is still randomly generated. And I broke the top. We'll have to fix that. So we'll get a bigger version of this and a bigger version of this. And then the articles will be the same all throughout. So we'll solve that on Thursday and hopefully get into testing then. Let's commit this stuff. So here, say that we added cache a way to get scene and articles. There we go. I'm going to say that we tuned light pulls and fixed. There we go. Go ahead and push that. Then the last thing we want to do is just make sure that we fix up in the article container. We've got our blurb, but our secondary article. Go to secondary article. And within our secondary article, we need import. And this is our markdown from JS content management as with I need to remind myself. So I was thinking that so it's with and suddenly didn't trust myself. So with log, so that will now add it to the imports on log. And here we can replace this with content tools. Oops, doing that. There we go. That should fix that component too. There we go. So now we've got a markdown component in both of our blurbs. And so the last thing to do is just what we'll do on Thursday, which is make sure when we come here that this is all appropriately marked down, and then most of our stuff is good to go. I mean, there's things that I would do differently in an actual production environment, but partly I want to get done with like creating the working site and get into testing, and partly I want to get into I've been thinking about state management quite heavily again. And I want to get into X state and Angular again and explore some ideas that I've had. So that's what's coming in the near future. And of course, I've been talking about writing like a Slay the Spire style game. I'm still working through the ideas behind that. So we might take an adventure in Angular 18 doing zoneless, and then potentially looking at X state and Angular with zoneless, and exploring highly composable states in how I want to call it, and why we might want to use them, what benefits they give us. And then that should give me some time to plan out how I want the game to work. Then we can start writing the game. And I think we might use Ionic for the game, just so that we can do animations. And so it'll work on phones or whatever else. kind of a peek into the near future. But thank you everybody for being here. Really appreciate it. A lot of fun, and we will see you guys on